genocide will be televised out across the world tonight for all of humankind to see. The genocide will be televised on Al Jazeera and across social media for everyone to see. To see the bodies of the babies being pulled from the rubble where human limbs lay scattered around, the burnt aftertaste of the panic and terror that an hour before bore a harrowing sound. The sound of the screams and the crushing of concrete as the buildings collapsed and came tumbling down. The sound of the bombs that forever will haunt you but never will leave and always follow you round. Like the cries of a girl as her leg is amputated without anesthetic, seen and cut through the bone. All in real time now, 24/7, we helplessly watch as the horrors unfold. The genocide will be televised out across the world tonight for all of humankind to see. The genocide will be televised on mobile phones and tablet screens for you and me to see. To see the terror in the eyes of a parentless child in a refugee camp, traumatized all alone, lying on the ground under a sheet made of plastic in the constant hum of an overhead drone. Or the piles of dead corpses lined up in the streets as the mass graves they overflow. The smell of dead flesh hanging hard in the air, a perfume of sorrow and woe. To witness the death of a nation of people, to hear their anguish pleading cries as we watch it unfolding 24/7 right in front of our very eyes. The genocide will be televised out across the world tonight for all of humankind to see. The genocide will be televised, yet our world leaders won't do a thing as they all pay lip service to murderous war pigs. The genocide will be televised and sponsored by McDonald's, given away free on Blu-ray DVD with every Happy Meal. The genocide will be televised and brought to you in conjunction with the UN Declaration of Human Rights, which apparently no longer means a fucking thing.
Palestine! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! 1, 2, 3, 4! Occupation no more! 1, 6, 7, 8! Israel is a terrorist state!
Resistance is justified!
People are occupied!
Resistance is justified!
People are occupied!
Resistance is justified! Resistance is justified!
People are occupied!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
In our thousands, in our millions!
We are all Palestinians!
In our thousands, in our millions!
We are all Palestinians!
In our thousands, in our millions!
We are all Palestinians!
In our thousands, in our millions!
We are all Palestinians!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
Biden, Biden, you can't hide!
We judge you with genocide!
Biden, Biden, you can't hide!
We judge you with genocide!
Biden, Biden, you can't hide!
We shall put in genocide!
Biden, Biden, you can't hide!
We shall put in genocide!
Resistance is justified!
People are occupied!
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 There is only one solution!
Intifada revolution!
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 Yemen, Yemen!
and the occupations of Afghanistan and of Iraq. We've had, as I said, troops with their weapons moving through for over 2 decades. And now that we're looking at the possible very serious escalation of war in the Middle East, Shannon will be complicit again if we don't stop the US military use of the airport now. We've been helping to refuel instability in the Middle East for decades. We've been allowing the army that's supplying Israel with the weapons to bombard Gaza to come and go out of Shannon Airport as they please. It's operating like a US military base. In fact, the US troops who get off a plane here probably think it is a US military base, but it's not. It's supposed to be on neutral Irish territory. One of the biggest problems we have, and we've had for many years, is that we don't know what's on the planes going through Shannon. We don't really know what's on them. And I'll just give you one example that one of my colleagues might talk a little bit more about later. A few days ago, a US Air Force transport aircraft landed at Shannon late in the evening. It was late on Wednesday evening, presumably refueled, and then it flew on directly to Tel Aviv in Israel just after midnight. We don't know what was on that plane. They were not inspected. The authorities have refused to inspect those planes over the years, over the decades. We also know now, of course, that Israel has been attacking, murdering the people of Gaza for the last 6 months. We know that Iran has warned it will strike again with greater force if Israel or the US retaliate to its drone and missile attacks. Biden has spoken about America's ironclad commitment to the security of Israel. That, of course, is the same Israel that's been stealing land, breaking international laws, and committing genocide. Here in Ireland, Taoiseach Simon Harris said this morning that he wants both sides to show restraint now to avoid any escalation in military action and the devastation that would cause. So the one thing that he can do to achieve that is to stop facilitating US involvement. End the flow of troops, end the flow of weapons through Shannon Airport and through Irish airspace to the Middle East, and do it now. So thanks to all of you for coming here today. We're going to have a few short speeches. I'm first going to call on my colleague from Shannon, Ed Horgan, who will say a few words.
Killed are probably in the region of 50,000, not 33,000, because there are thousands buried under the rubble of their homes. It is genocide by any definition, and by definition of the Genocide Convention. But what's happening here at Shannon doesn't just apply, or hasn't just applied, to what's happening in Palestine at the moment. It's been going on since the first Gulf War, at the end of the Cold War in '91, and then right up to the Afghan War, the Second Iraq War, Syria, Libya, Bosnia and Serbia. I'm involved with a project called Naming the Children, trying to name the children killed in the Middle East and elsewhere due to wars. We initially came up with a figure of 1 million children dead. The reality is that is a serious underestimate, and our research now indicates that up to 5 million children especially, and clearly a lot of adults also, have been killed in Middle East wars and other wars that were totally against the UN Charter. I won't go on too long. I'll fill you in particularly in the short term as to what's been going through Shannon Airport. John mentioned just one, but even today there's an Eastern Airlines plane at Shannon Airport. Not quite sure what it's doing there, but it has been on contact several times to Shannon Airport, taking troops and whatever to Shannon Airport. This morning also, an Omni airplane on contact to the US military passed through the airport. Since October the 7th last, 100 aircraft at least associated with the US military had been refueled at Shannon Airport, most of them going to and from the Middle East. This does not include US aircraft just flying through Irish airspace. In the last few days, April the 10th, the US Air Force C-17 Globemaster aircraft arrived at Shannon around 2200 hours, coming from MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. After refueling, he took off about 1 a.m. and flew on directly to Tel Aviv. Yesterday, April the 13th, the same aircraft was tracked by me over Israel and Lebanon as the most recent emergency was unfolding last night. A US Marine Corps KC-130 refueling aircraft number 16441 arrived at Shannon Airport on April the 11th, coming from Naval Air Station in Florida, stayed overnight in Shannon, took off on the 12th, heading towards the Middle East with its unknown cargo. It landed in Crete and subsequently, yesterday, moved on to Bahrain. This demonstrates that Shannon Airport has been used directly by the US military to actively support Israeli military aggressions against Palestine. As well as having these US military planes in Shannon, on the air number N477AX landed on Shannon about 8:50 yesterday, 13th of April, coming from Baltimore in the US. It refueled and took off again and was last seen flying over Egypt, heading towards the Gulf states. We will be reading a statement later up at the Gaza barrier, calling on the Irish government not to bother searching, in fact, US military planes, but to stop all US military planes coming through Shannon Airport. It's not just that a breach of Irish neutrality is relatively important. These nuances in international law are being totally ignored anyway. What is important is to stop the killing of innocent people, especially children, on a huge scale. And that's why I think most of us are here today. Killing an adult like me, I'm almost 80 years of age, you only remove a small portion of my life. Killing a child, you remove the vast majority of its life and all of its human rights. And that is appalling. And we are facilitating genocide, but particularly facilitating the killing. So far, probably in the region of 15 to 20,000 children may well have already been killed in Gaza. Thank you very much so far, and thank you for coming from all parts of Ireland. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Ed. For those of you not familiar with the technicalities of what is going through Shannon, there are what are called US military contracted planes, like the ones that Ed mentioned, that are operated by companies like Omni Air International. They have troops and their personal weapons on board, and the government has had to admit that, and that is well documented. There are also planes that are operated directly by the US Air Force, the US Navy, the US military, coming through the airport. Our government, the Irish government, uses the pathetic excuse that they rely on assurances from the American authorities that there are no weapons on that planes. Can any of us believe that the US Air Force go anywhere in the world without carrying weapons on their planes? Of course not. There are weapons on those planes, but the authorities turn a blind eye, refuse to look at what's on those planes. So I'm now going to ask Roger Cole from the Peace and Neutrality Alliance to say a few words. Thank you.
The Peace and Neutrality Alliance and the Irish anti-war movement organised the first demonstration at Shannon Airport in 2002 during the time of the Iraq War. And let me assure you, this crowd is a hell of a lot bigger. So congratulations for turning up. I've also been to Palestine on the invitation of Ali Khamenei, who was the ambassador of Palestine at the time. But what's happening now has no comparison whatsoever to what was happening to the Palestinians when I visited Palestine. It's straightforward genocide. They have decided to solve the Palestinian problem the way the Nazis did when they were killing Jews. They have now decided themselves to solve the problem by killing all the Palestinians. They are copying them. They are doing the same of what happened to them. And this is a horrific issue that we have to not just turn up here, but next time, let's have a few democratically elected politicians here coming in large numbers to show that it isn't just protesters. But the Irish people are strongly against genocide because it happened to them under British rule. They were killing people in the same way. So I ask you to continue to support these demonstrations. The demonstrations in Dublin, demonstrations throughout the country against what's happening.
Thank you, Roger. The Peace and Neutrality Alliance have also published a number of very good booklets and documents, not only documenting what's going on here at Shannon, but also other breaches of Irish neutrality. I'm going to now invite Zoe Lawler, chairperson of the Ireland-Palestine Solidarity Campaign, to say a few words. And just before she does as well, I want to say that we invited all of the public representatives, all the TDs and MEPs to come here today. A few have arrived, and I'm very grateful. We're very grateful to them for doing so. If there are some here that would like to say a few short words after Zoe, please come up to us here and we'll facilitate that. Zoe, over to you.
Sorry to my Limerick friends who just can't get away from me. Thanks, John. So for years, every month, we have protested at this airport at successive Irish governments letting the US military use a supposedly civilian airport for the illegal invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan, for mass murder and war crimes all over the world, for rendition of people to US torture spots, to Guantanamo. And for years, our government has shamefully been complicit in these crimes and has ignored the will of the majority of people here who object to this. It is against our will and against our constitution. But because of this, Ireland is not a neutral country. We have been and are complicit in the murder, injury, displacement and destruction of the lives of millions of people. At this airport, we have had vigils, marches, peace camps, actions, direct actions, and some of our best comrades have been imprisoned for their actions and refusal of Ireland's complicity in the US murder machine. And we owe a debt of gratitude to the people who have been doing this and who have consistently and insistently protested Ireland being part of the war machine. And none more so than Ed Horgan and John Lennon, who track this military activity, who organise us, who go to court, who support activists, who keep us all informed and keep us protesting the use of Shannon Airport. And we have to thank them sincerely. And all the actions lately, occupying the airport terminal, naming the children in the terminal, the 3 activists who went on the runway, are all part of this proud legacy, and we have to keep it up. We cannot stop now, especially now. We cannot continue to allow this state to be complicit in genocide. We are now over 6 months into a genocide perpetrated against the Palestinian people in Gaza by apartheid Israel, and we have seen the worst crimes, barbarism beyond words, endless daily massacres, more than 35,000 people murdered, more than 15,000 children murdered, thousands missing, thousands maimed, the majority of the population forcibly displaced, everyone hurt and deeply traumatized. Gaza destroyed, and there is forced starvation, and whatever happens, this will have catastrophic long-term impact on the population. And we have seen that international law means nothing if you are Palestinian. We have seen major Western states not only stand by, but actively participate in this genocide. And yes, Israel is the perpetrator, but so is the US. The US administration funds this genocide. It arms this genocide. It provides cover for this genocide by blocking all UN resolutions calling for a ceasefire or any justice for Palestine, by parroting Israel's atrocity propaganda, and by completely dehumanizing the Palestinians. And we are facilitating that military, and that makes Ireland complicit too. Whether or not one piece of weaponry for Israel has gone through, and how would we know? Because the Gardaí and the government refused to inspect the planes. We are still complicit in Israel's genocide by allowing the US military to even set foot on our runways. Our government cannot have it both ways. They cannot put up a facade of supporting Palestine while continuously refusing to sanction Israel for its crimes against the Palestinian people, while blocking the legislation to hold Israel accountable, and while it is enabling the US military. We demand meaningful action. They must enact the legislation, they must sanction Israel, they must demand an end to EU-Israel trade agreement, and we must stop trading with Israel. Ireland's trade with Israel has actually increased lately. Much of our trade with Israel is dual-use tech, and how much of that tech is being used in this AI genocide against Palestinians?
Shame.
Last month, Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in the Palestinian territories, released her investigation concluding that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. The report recommends that UN member states immediately implement an arms embargo on Israel, as it has failed to comply with the binding measures of the ICJ. Well, what are we seeing here with the US military? That is the opposite of an embargo. Ireland is a signatory to the UN Genocide Convention, and we have legal, not to mind moral obligations to do what we can to prevent genocide, and that means getting the US military out of this airport. And if this situation escalates into a regional war, will we continue to facilitate it? On past records on Iraq and Afghanistan, then we will. Years ago, I was bringing my mum away for a few days, flying out of Shannon, and she was in a wheelchair, and they were trying to make her stand up to search the chair, and she couldn't stand up, but they wouldn't let me help her. And in the meantime, there were hundreds of US troops in camouflage desert fatigues wandering around the airport, uninspected, unimpeded, unhindered by our government, on their way to or from committing war crimes. And that sums it up. We are surveilled, policed, arrested, criminalised, and sometimes imprisoned for peace activism, for rejecting complicity in war, in murder, while war criminals have free rein in our airport. And that is a shame on this state, on our government, and on the Gardaí. And it's heartening to see so many people here today, so many people becoming aware of Shannon's use as a military hub and coming out to reject that. Coming out against war, against genocide, and coming out for Palestine. And it is great to see this new wave of activism and direct action. Keep it up, keep going. And we will keep going. We will keep coming here every month until there is not one more US soldier in this airport. Not one more US warplane or carrier on our runways. Not one more weapon to our airspace. complicit in genocide. Our conscience demands it, the people demand it, and Palestine demands it. No more blood on our hands. We will not participate in genocide, and that means getting the US military out of Shannon. Free Palestine.
I'm going to ask, first of all, Breach Smith to say a few words here today, because we're grateful that she has joined us. And if there are any other TDs or MEPs here, please come up to us.
Thanks very much, and grateful that I joined you, but I'm very proud to have joined you. And I want to echo what Zoe said, and to thank Shannon Airport and the individuals who have, for decades now, kept watch over this airport and the activities of the US military in and out of Shannon. You know, during the week in the dawn, Micheál Martin said to me, I have every confidence, he said, this is your Taoiseach, that there are no weapons or military hardware going through Shannon Airport. Every confidence. Now, how does he have that confidence? That question he won't answer, that question he cannot answer, because they refuse to carry out checks. They don't even carry out spot checks. They just accept at their word what the US military put on documents that they submit to the Department of Transport. But for us, that really is immaterial whether Micheál Martin has confidence or hasn't got confidence. For us, it's the truth that matters. And the truth is obvious, that the US regime and military are giving 100% support to the genocide in Gaza, to the torture and occupation of Palestine, and have been doing so since the Second World War. In fact, they've been doing so to the total of $320 billion since the end of the Second World War. And each year, their support, their financial and military support for Israel increases. And as the situation in the Middle East escalates because of the activities of Netanyahu, his provocations, his willingness to allow famine and destitution and murder rain down on the Palestinian people and to provoke their allies in the region, we are possibly facing a third world war, or at least, if not a third world war, a serious escalation in hostilities. And what will that amount to? It'll amount to more US planes going through Shannon Airport. It'll amount to a massive increase of our complicity as a state with that operation in the Middle East. And that's why today, because it comes a day after the escalation in the Middle East, is hugely important. And it's not just symbolic. This is really matters now, that the Irish people tell our government, defend our neutrality, we want nothing to do with it, take every single US plane and every single treaty you've made with Biden and others out of this country. We don't want any cast iron guarantees. We may have given Netanyahu ironclad guarantees, but we're not giving him an ironclad guarantee that he can do with our neutrality what he wants. So keep building the movement. It gets difficult. It can be disheartening when you see these bastards getting away with how much they get away with. But we've got to keep building it. We've got to keep up the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement, which is making gains, which is having an impact, and it's due to the voices and the actions of ordinary people in this country and globally. The movement comes from below, not from above, and the power of people matters. So well done today, and we've got to keep it up for the sake of humanity, for the sake of Palestine. Well done.
Thank you, Wade. Before we move now, I just want to invite Catherine Connolly, TD, to say a few short words. Thank you.
Díomh Cordia, I'm clishin to me. Can you hear me? Yeah. Díomh Cordia, and I just got a míle mágad as a bheithan seo, tá se har a bheith tábhachtach, agus déanann sé difriocht olmhór go bhfuil muidig seasamh le chéile, ní ar chun héin ach ar son muintir na Palestina. Sin an rud is slú is féidir a dhéanamh. Thank you for coming here today. I'll be very brief. It means an awful lot to me, but more importantly, it's putting pressure on the government. Your presence makes a difference. Believe it. believe it because they want us to think that it doesn't make a difference. And you have changed some of the narrative at government level. And the Taoiseach or the Taoiseach has been forced into saying they are now ready to recognise Palestine, when Palestine is barely not recognisable because of the slaughter and the destruction. We have no choice. It's very hard to stand here and come up with words. I have no words left. It's hard not to be emotional. It's hard not to be upset at the twisting of language and the demonisation and the consensus that we have good and bad. They're good, they're bad. And the difficulty of opting out of that consensus. But that's what we have to do. The consensus is dangerous. The failure to ask questions is very, very dangerous. And now somebody said is our time. This is the only time we're going to get. We're on the precipice of a third world war, while the boys play war games and the arms industry make money. We feed the arms industry and we starve the Palestinians. That's the point that we've come to in this republic, and I'll have nothing to do with it. So thank you for your presence here today. Garamila Magif.
Before we move down towards the airport, I just want to mention two things to remind you. First of all, that the IPSC national demonstration is in Dublin next Saturday. What time, Zoe?
1 p.m. Garden of Remembrance.
1 p.m. Garden of Remembrance. The other thing that I want to mention is that we have a speaker in Limerick on Tuesday night. Tala is her name. She's from Adamir, which is the Prisoner Support and Human Rights Association. They're a Palestinian NGO based in Ramallah. So we're looking forward to that. That's at 7:30 in the Forza building. So.
You're committing genocide! Fight, fight, Ukraine! You're committing genocide! Free, free!
Palestine!
Free, free!
Palestine!
Free, free!
Palestine!
Free, free!
Palestine!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state! Out, out!
Israeli ambassador!
Out, out, out!
Israeli ambassador!
Out, out, out!
Israeli ambassador!
Out, out, out!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
Palestine will never die!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
Palestine will never die!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
Palestine will never die!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more! Israel is a terrorist state! Occupation no more! Israel is a terrorist state! Occupation no more! Israel is a terrorist state! Palestine will be free.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Occupation no more! Israel is a terrorist state!
Occupation no more! Israel is a terrorist state! Ready for the revolution! Ready for the revolution!
Occupation no more!
Israel is a terrorist state! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
American military!
Out, out, out!
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 From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terrorist state!
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more! Israel is a terrorist state. Occupation no more.
American military!
Out, out, out!
American military!
Out, out, out!
American military!
Out, out, out!
American military!
The honest government must now take action to the use of all Irish airports and sovereign airspace engaging belligerent military action must be prohibited with the possible stopping of Greenland diplomatic flights. Until such time as the use of Shannon Airport by the US military is ended, at least the Gardaí and the Irish authorities should do is to ensure that and other military support is not being provided by Shannon Airport to the State of Israel and breach of international law. Shannon March and everybody here also call on all workers at Shannon Airport, including the Gardaí, to refuse to facilitate all aircraft associated with the US military through Shannon Airport. As I mentioned earlier on, over the past 48 hours, several aircraft associated with the US military have gone to the Middle East, and at least 2 have landed in Tel Aviv. This is in spite of the government assurances. I will now hand a copy of this for Chief Superintendent Aileen Magner, Gaza Station in the County Clare.
Woo!
Okay, listen up everyone. We have Jimmy Cullen here to sing. Jimmy has been singing outside the Israeli embassy for weeks. Listen up and give him your support.
Join me, it's real simple. The chorus is, in our thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians. No, they like to wipe it out off the face of the earth, leaving not a single trace behind when the Palestine is done. Oh, but there's one thing that they completely fail to see, that Palestine runs far beyond the river and the sea. Because in our thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians. Thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians. Oh, and in our thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians. So they may try and try and try, but they never will succeed to kill the spirit of a people that's been planted like a seed. In every corner of this planet now, it must be plain to see that the people won't be silent until Palestine is free. Sing it with me now. Because in our thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians. Oh, and in our thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians. Oh, and in our thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians. Oh, and in our thousands and our millions, we are all Palestinians.
Ceasefire now.
Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire.
Everyone, Sensenina.
Sensenina. Sensenina. Sensenina. Sensenina. Sensenina. Sensenina. Sensenina. Sensenina.
Sirsha, Sirsha.
Sirsha, Sirsha, don't Palestine. Sirsha, Sirsha, don't Palestine. Sirsha, Sirsha, don't Palestine. Sirsha, Sirsha.
Last verse, ceasefire now. Ceasefire now.
Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire.
Free Palestine.
Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! In our
Thank you, guys.
Can I have your attention for a minute? There's a famous poem by Pastor Niemöller. He wrote it in 1946 after the Second World War. The poem looks back to the rise of fascism in Germany in the 1930s. And his poem, after it, I've written an update. First, they came for the communists. And I did not speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists. I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. And I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. And I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Jew. And then they came for me. And there was no one left to speak out. Then the Zionists came for the Palestinians. And not enough people spoke out. But now, eventually, after 75 years and more of the Zionists coming for the Palestinians, we are speaking out. All over the world, more and more of us are speaking out and will keep on speaking out. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians.
Well done, Martin. So I don't know how you do it in Shannon, but in Limerick we do call, repeat, and then response. But in Dublin they do it differently, and in Clare I know they do it differently. So let's do it the Limerick way, because that's always best. Free